What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. And you can never force nobody else to wear them.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts. And I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. Messed up and out of touch, let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. Well, the things I think while I lie awake and contemplate at night are wearing me out.
Good evening. I know there's a thing up on the screen. Usually that clears off before well, even before I get the intro started. But tonight, I guess it was a little bit delayed in its appearance to begin with. So it'll go away here soon enough. Usually, hang on, let me swap it back and forth. No, didn't. Well, it'll go away. I forgot to get the tablet set up this evening that I normally use to switch through the different shots with. Let me get that set up and we'll be good to go here. Alright. Like I say, that stupid little box will disappear momentarily. Normally, if I click back and forth on the scenes, it disappears. Oh well. I will show you this real quick before we get started. It's kind of interesting. We live in Highland, which is right there, and we've got one cell going south of us and the other cell going north of us. So it's kind of a Moses moment right now. So yeah, that's quite interesting though. I don't know. I don't quite know if there's anything more behind that or not. I'll take a quick peek, see. I don't think I saw anything tonight, but they're saying that there could be more severe weather tomorrow, so let's see. Yikes, things look a bit rough back there in Kansas. Yikes. Looks like 3 different warning boxes. Some of them could be, some or all of them could be combined for the same concern. But yeah, definitely something going on in Kansas there. And I don't know that we'll have anything more tonight, unless something pops up. It's possible there's something popping up down here in Oklahoma, I believe that is. And I don't know, could very possibly be. So, anywho, I was checking that just before we started the show to see if we had anything that I should be looking at. But it appears it's at least all good for the moment. Wow, that stupid thing. It says, Twidget active, waiting for chat. Okay then. And chat. I'll see if I can pop it up and... Yeah, there we go. That did it. That works. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. Got some interesting news tonight. Don't have a bunch of different news articles up to talk to you about, but definitely some very interesting ones. And then there's one, and I'd long suspected it as well because it was kind of obvious, but Boss Prepping kept saying over and over and over that the United States were having talks with Iran, and that, you know, there was something kind of funny going on the side. And I do have an article today that speaks directly to that, so kind of interesting. Boss Prepping, another good channel. So Average Joe Preparedness had an incredible video the other night, so make sure you add those. There's not a lot of prepper channels out there that I really like, but I do like Boss Prepping a lot, and I like Average Joe Preparedness a lot, so those are 2 good ones. They're not always trying to sell you always trying to sell you stuff, Average Joe Preparedness, never trying to sell anything, and neither does Boss Prepping. He sells charcuterie boards if you're into that kind of thing, but he does sell those. Beautiful. He does beautiful work. There's no doubt about that. I would love to have... I looked up one of the kinds of wood that he said he had. I can't remember what it was. It's something red, and I can't remember what it was. But it is absolutely gorgeous wood. And I would love to have some knives with some handles made out of that stuff. It is gorgeous. Anyway, interesting news. Let me go ahead and get to that. I don't really have anything in particular to talk about. I did work on the website quite a bit today, including screamed at the website here and there, not actually literally, but I was running into a couple of issues. Well, and then I did something new that I haven't ever done, and one thing I couldn't stand, and I know you can't see even if I show you. I know you can't see the address bar, but one thing that I couldn't stand about the platforms that I used is any time like that you would click on a link, for instance, it would up in the URL up top, it would put index.php and then / and then whatever the page was, and I couldn't stand that. Well, apparently I couldn't stand it enough, bad enough that I didn't Google it, but I found out today how to fix that. So I clicked a couple of buttons to fix that, and I thought, well, I better check things, and I was on the home page, and I turned around, I clicked over for the contact page, I think it was, and then it just, nothing. Page 404 not found. I'm like, oh, great. Well, then I went and did the other method that was mentioned, and after I ran into a small issue with that, had to reset my PHP file, then I was good to go, and now it doesn't have that. But on that contact page, man, I was looking for that for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours. Underneath where it says send email here, it listed all of the events that I have posted. All of these are events, and it listed them all underneath the contact, the send email button on the contacts. I'm like, I don't want that. I don't, that's stupid to put there. I looked and looked and looked, and I was totally looking in the wrong place. I did finally find it and got that squared away. But it's coming together. I think I'm almost out of space for menu buttons, but got the different Facebook groups for the town there, got some of the city websites and the city Facebook page, of course the calendar, latest news. It's just going to be, this is an article that came out in a local paper about what's going on. So I got that posted and all linked up. And so yeah, I mean, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix the problem. And, if there's one thing that I learned from the Bundys and from Lavoy Finicum, is that you have to follow the procedure. You have to go through the process. And, it's a lengthy, it's, you can't really expect a whole lot of results from it. But you have to take the steps. You have to do those actions, because if you don't, then you are in the wrong. And so that's something that I had a lot of respect when it came to the Bundys and when it came to Lavoy Finicum. They did an incredible job of making sure that they went through every single process that they needed to, that they exhausted every option. And that is when they took their stand, after they exhausted all of those options and couldn't get anywhere. I really hope that, this is going to be at least a relatively easy fix here. I'm hoping that, I hope that the board members listen. That would be great. If we can get the board members to listen and remove the bad actors out of the city government, because they're the ones that are in control of that, then all is well. All is well. It stops there. However, if letting them know, putting them on notice, if you will, that we're going to start voting them out unless they do the right thing, if that doesn't work, well, then we've got to take those steps. We just have to take the time of voting them out one by one, because it's not like all their seats come up the same day or nothing. Just voting them out one by one, putting in people that will listen to the residents of the town, and then from there have those new members on the town board get rid of the bad apples. So that's all we can do. It's a process that just takes time, and it's a process that takes engagement, and that's exactly what my intent is behind providing this website. It is to give people one place to go to get all the information they need as to what's going on, as well as like when seats are going up, who's running for the seats, and I want to get information on here under the resources tab, exactly how people can run the entire process that people need to go through in order to run for a city council seat. Knowledge is king. And so if I can provide knowledge, I'm not interested in running. I don't, that's not my cup of tea. Yet at the same time, that's exactly what kind of makes it my cup of tea. I really don't want to run. However, I do want to make the information readily available on the entire procedure that people need to go through, and including, I would love to start interviewing them. I'll do it. I will absolutely sit down and interview them one-on-one. I am not somebody that plays games. I'm not somebody that's going to sit there and play all softball questions. No, I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to ask the important questions. And I just want to do anything that I can to help fix the problem. And this is what I think I can do. This is the spot that I think I best fit in, the role I can best perform in order to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. I appreciate the Father for giving me some nudges, that's for sure. I couldn't not do it. That wasn't an option. Once I realized what was really going on, just sitting back and shutting up was not an option. Not at all. So again, I don't have any interest in running for a seat, but I do have much interest in making sure that there are options to choose from, good options to choose from, and options in which the people will be heard. Because what's going on is nonsense, and all they're doing is pointing fingers at everybody else. That's all everybody's doing in all of this. Whether it was turning over the telecommunications to the county, or whether it's this situation with the EMS service, everybody's just pointing fingers at each other. Oh no, it wasn't me, it was that. That's all they're doing. And I know of for a fact, one tyrant with a capital T that's working in a appointed position in the city, and he needs to be the first to go. What we need to do is we need to put together a list of demands, and that will be right here, probably on the homepage. It'll be something that you cannot miss, and it will simply be a message to inform the city of what the people want. Literally, who the people, and I'm going to take polls, who the people want to see removed out of the appointed positions, and any other types of actions that the people want taken. We'll make a list, and the town board's got a choice. They can listen to the people or be replaced by the people. That's how the system is supposed to work. So we are going to take those steps. We're going to do those procedures. we're going to exercise our rights to fix the problem. And anybody, whether it be an appointed or elected position that's got an issue with that, has automatically defined themselves as a tyrant. Automatically. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see who it is that does the kicking and the scratching and the biting when all this starts to happen. Because I'm not somebody that just walks away from a challenge. This is going to be interesting, and I'm actually going to enjoy it. Why? Because it's doing the right thing. Now, I've done so many screwed up things. Nothing super, super serious. But I mean, you know, I don't want to be a drag on the system. I don't want to be a drain on the system. I want to help be a cog that helps the system function properly. And again, I think this is the role that I can best perform, at least at this point, at this time. This is the best I can do. So anyway, if you've got problems in your local area, I highly recommend you get involved, you do something to help fix those problems. Anywho, let's see. Got some interesting articles, especially this first one that I titled the show after. Now, I knew that this was going on. I didn't know exactly to what level. I do know that the U.S. military has actually had games that they had been behind putting out there. I can't remember the name of the one off the top of my head. It's not like it was a secret. People knew it. But this is on a different level. This is something totally different. It's not surprising to me. Again, it's something I pretty well suspected, but I never really had any, like, actual information saying so. Hang on, I'm going to I hear a plane flying. Okay, that's just, pardon me, that's just commercial. And this, now, they're coming out with an article that pretty much spells it out. As you see here, the feds are coming for extremist gamers. It says here, gaming companies coordinating with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security to root out so-called domestic violent extremist content, according to a new government report. Noting that mechanisms have been established with social media companies to police extremism, the report recommends that the national security agencies establish new and similar processes with the vast gaming industry. The exact nature of the cooperation between federal agencies and video game companies, which has not been previously reported, is detailed in a new Government Accountability Office report. By the way, this article actually came out like 4 days ago, but I just found out about it today. The report draws on interviews conducted with 5 gaming and social media companies, including Roblox, an online gaming platform, Discord, a social media app commonly used by gamers. They call it a social media app. Discord is more of a communications app. It's what most people use it for, to my knowledge, is for voice communications. It's TeamSpeak used to be a very popular platform for that. This is just kind of like a TeamSpeak on steroids. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Let's see. Reddit, as well as a game publisher and social media company that asked the GAO to remain anonymous. The Intercept reached out to the companies identified in the GAO report for comment, but none responded on the record at the time of publication. The Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security have mechanisms to share and receive domestic violent extremism threat-related information with social media and gaming companies, the GAO says. The report reveals that the DHS Intelligence Office meets with gaming companies and that the companies can use these meetings to share information with the INA DHS Intelligence Office about online activities promoting domestic violent extremism or simply activities that violate the company's terms of service. Through its 56 field offices and hundreds of resident agencies' subordinate field offices, the FBI receives tips from gaming companies of potential law-breaking and extremist views for further investigation. The FBI also conducts briefing to gaming companies on purported threats. I am so glad that to the level that I get into of quote-unquote gaming, it's nothing even in this direction. Flight sim, yeah, you're not going to see a bunch of extremist stuff in Flight Simulator. And in the other game that I play, VTOL VR, well, for the most part anyway, at this point in time, I'm not even playing in the multiplayer servers, but I don't think they're real crazy. I think it's more or less the most that you see there is people trash talking each other, and I don't think it's anything that, most of the time it's little kids trash talking the adults or each other. It's nothing extremist, that's for sure. The GAO warns that FBI and DHS lack an overarching strategy to bring its work with gaming companies in line with broader agency missions. Without a strategy or goals, the agencies may not be fully aware of how effective their communications are with companies or how effective their information sharing mechanisms serve the agency's overall missions, the GAO says. The report ends with a recommendation that both agencies develop such a strategy, a recommendation that DHS concurred with, provided an estimated completion date of June 28 this year. All I can think of is the awful track record of the FBI when it comes to identifying extremism. Hassan Piker, a popular Twitch streamer who often streams while playing video games under the handle Hassan Abib, says of the mechanisms, they're much better at finding vulnerable teenagers with mental disabilities to take advantage of. The GAO's investigation, which covers September 2022 to January 2024, was undertaken at the request of the House Homeland Security Committee, which asked the government auditor to examine domestic violent extremists' use of gaming platforms and social media. While there is no federal law that criminalizes domestic violent extremism as a category of crime, since 2019 the U.S. government has employed 5 domestic terrorism threat categories. These are defined by the FBI and DHS as racial, ethnically motivated violent extremism, anti-government/anti-authority violent extremism, animal rights or environmental violent extremism, or abortion-related violent extremism, all other domestic terror threats. The GAO study also follows pressure from Congress to top gaming companies to crack down on extremist content. Last March, Senate Judiciary Committee Chair Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois, sent letters to gaming companies Valve, Activision Blizzard, Epic Games, Riot Games, Roblox Corporation, and Take-Two Interactive, demanding that they take actions to police gamers. Didn't Microsoft buy Activision Blizzard? I think so, or at least they were going to, I think. Unlike more traditional social media companies, which in recent years have developed public-facing policies addressing extremism, created trust in public safety teams, and released transparency reports, online gaming platforms generally have not utilized these tools, Durbin wrote in a letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland. In the letter, Durbin requested a briefing from the Justice Department on what channels exist for DOJ and the online video game industry to communicate and coordinate on the threat of online video games by extremists and other malicious actors. I don't know how on it they are, but I know that the Quest headsets, from my understanding, they have a reporting system that, from my understanding, they use that. If you start doing stupid stuff with their headsets, and they're made aware of it, they'll turn your headset off. You won't be logging into their system, that's for sure. So, hang on, I gotta have a sip of coffee. All right. I'm not going to read the rest of it. You get the gist of it. You know, the last thing that I am for is any type of extremism. I'm just not. Not when it comes to, you know, unnecessary means. I mean, look, again, I try to lead by example. You know, there's plenty of people out there that could sit there and trash talk their city or whatever, or, you know, make empty threats or even full threats for that matter. That's not the way to deal with things. First, you have to go through the channels, and I'm not saying that being weak. I'm saying that being thorough. I don't know how I feel, though, about the government doing this. What brought this to my attention was a short that was done by Glenn Beck. And he had made a comment that I guess somebody else was saying that pretty much all the information, you know, all the communications and stuff like that is being recorded. I have no doubt about that. I've been saying for quite a while that literally everything we do online is a matter of record. Everything. And that's why I won't do anything online that I wouldn't do right in front of a DHS agent. It's common sense to me not to do so. Wow. Yikes. I think this is breaking information that I'm going to bring out real quick right now. Let me get that posted. We'll just go on into this and I'll continue from there. Blast rocks FBI training facility. Says here an explosion left multiple members of the Southern Californian Orange County Sheriff's Department SWAT team hospitalized on Wednesday. The team had been undergoing a training course at an FBI training facility with the sheriff's bomb squad when the blast occurred, the department's Sergeant Frank Gonzalez told the AP. The explosion took place shortly before 1 p.m., so it's actually happened a little while ago, and the cause was not immediately clear, he said. At least 16 officers required hospitalization, but the worst injury was a non-life-threatening leg wound that will require surgery. 2 other officers sustained superficial wounds while the rest suffered from dizziness. The facility, located in a remote area of Irvine, south of south of Los Angeles, hosts firearms training and assessment for the FBI and local law enforcement. No FBI personnel were hurt in the incident, according to the FBI spokesperson Laura E. Miller. So apparently it wasn't like any kind of attack or anything like that. It was their training that went wrong. So, I mean, that's in a sense good news. You know, not good news that happened, but at least it wasn't an attack from someone else. That would suck. Coffee. Ah, fun times. So this is the article I was mentioning earlier. U.S. held secret talks with Iran, says Financial Times. This here says U.S. President Joe Biden's administration reportedly held behind-the-scenes negotiations with Iran to solicit Tehran's help in pressuring Yemen's Houthi rebels to halt their attacks on commercial cargo ships in the Red Sea. The talks were held in January in Oman, the Financial Times reported on Wednesday, citing unidentified U.S. and Iranian officials. Omani officials acted as intermediaries. Omani officials. Oh, I was repeating that. Shuttling between the American and Iranian negotiators so they could communicate without making direct contact with each other. The Houthi attacks have continued unabated, suggesting that the secret negotiations failed to achieve the desired results. The FT didn't specify whether Iran rejected the U.S. request or tried unsuccessfully to persuade the rebels to cease their rocket and drone strikes. Iranian leaders have claimed that although Tehran supports the militant group politically, the Houthis act independently. The rebels have launched dozens of attacks on vessels on the Red Sea and surrounding waters, disrupting shipping traffic through one of the world's most important maritime corridors. The Houthis and other Iranian-backed militants have targeted U.S., UK, and Israeli interests across the Middle East, in solidarity with the Palestinian people since the Israeli-Hamas war began in October. The Houthi attacks have continued despite airstrikes against the group by a U.S.-led military coalition. Houthi spokesman Yahya Saree was vowed to confront the American-British escalation with escalation and will not hesitate to carry out comprehensive and effective military operations in retaliation to any British-American foolishness against beloved Yemen. Iran has allegedly sought to avoid escalation of tensions with Washington, discouraging its affiliated militias from further attacks on American military bases in Iraq and Syria after 3 U.S. troops were killed in a drone strike near the Jordanian-Syrian border in late January. An Iranian official reportedly told the FT that when a key general visited Baghdad last month, he advised Iraqi militias to manage their behavior in a way that will not allow America to engage Iran. U.S. negotiators led by White House Middle East advisor Brett McGurk and envoy Abraham Paley also expressed concerns about Iran's expanding nuclear program. According to the report, Iran was represented by its deputy foreign minister Ali Bagheri Khani, who is Tehran's lead nuclear negotiator. The Biden administration sees indirect communication channels as a method for raising a full range of threats emanating from Iran, the FT said. The White House negotiators conveyed to the Iranians what they need to do in order to prevent a wider conflict as they claim they want. The second round of talks, reportedly scheduled for last month, was delayed because McGurk was focused on trying to help broker a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. The conflict in the Gaza Strip also derailed efforts by the U.S. to negotiate de-escalation measures with Iran, including limitations on the Islamic Republic's uranium enrichment, the FT said. So, and I think that is something that's gotten a lot further along than what we know of, at least the public. I can't say the government per se, but I think at this point, Iran's very likely got several nuclear weapons. I had said for years that North Korea had them. And a lot of people thought I was nuts. Oh, they don't have them, you know. No, they had them. They had them for a while. And I think the truth of the matter is when you get one built, you don't want to pop your head up out of the molehill once you got one built, because they'll just pop your head down. You have to have enough that you could do some damage. And then that puts you on the nuclear deterrent list, if you will. I think Iran's got several at this point. We know that North Korea's got quite a few at this point. So we'll see. Well, I hope we don't see, but you know what I mean. I thought this was a crazy headline. EU state may conscript women. And I knew, hang on, I gotta have a couple of vapes. I knew it was gonna go here though. And you could actually go back on shows, I'm sure, and hear me say it many different times. I knew that this is where this was gonna lead to. Born at night, but it wasn't last night. I know BS when I see it. I know BS when I hear it. And I knew exactly why they were pushing for the things that they were pushing, both here and abroad, and this just proves it. Denmark may become the latest Scandinavian nation to start forcing women to serve in its military, expanding its conscription program to help bolster defenses amid the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Check this out. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen unveiled the initiative on Wednesday in Copenhagen, telling reporters that requiring women to join the military will help achieve, listen to this, full equality between the sexes. So, by forcing them to go and die in conflict, that's the full equality. I knew what they were doing. We do not rearm because we want war. We are rearming because we want to avoid it. Denmark's military currently has about 13,700 troops, including 9,000 professional soldiers and 4,700 conscripts in training. Frederiksen's government aims to increase the number of conscripts to 5,000 and to make both men and women subject to compulsory service. Danish law currently requires all able-bodied men to be conscripted for about 4 months of military service. Not all men are forced to serve because volunteers reduce the need for compulsory enlistment. Female volunteers currently account for about 25% of Denmark's 4,700 short-term forces. Plans call for enacting a new conscription law in 2025 and implementing the system in 2026. The new troops will spend 5 months in training, followed by 6 months of operational service. The region's security landscape has become more and more serious, and we have to take that into account when we look at future defense, Danish Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen told reporters. A broader basis for recruiting that includes all genders is needed. Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen emphasized that Russia doesn't currently pose a threat to Danish security, but we will not bring ourselves to a place where they could come and do that. Sweden began conscripting both men and women in 2017, 4 years earlier. Norway became the first NATO member to impose compulsory military service on women. Frederiksen has called for scaling up defenses in European countries to deter Russian aggression. Freedom comes at a price, she said last month in an interview with the Financial Times. It is our own responsibility to be able to protect ourselves. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly pointed out that Moscow has no interest in attacking NATO countries or in escalating the crisis in Ukraine to a wider conflict. And I have not seen anything to say that he is trying to escalate it into a wider conflict, but I do see a bunch of NATO countries trying to do that. It's crazy. I knew what they were going to be pushing for at some point or another with all this equality stuff was compulsory service. I knew it. And it wasn't long after I started saying that sure enough, they started talking about making women eligible for draft here in the United States. And we'll see. I bet that the United States is going to be lock, stock, and barrel completely behind this soon enough. I mean, the governments no longer have any regard for their citizens, and that's from the top to the bottom. That's from federal government down to local government. They no longer have any regard for their citizens. We're nothing but resources to them at this point. That's all we are, is resources. That's not how it's supposed to be. But it works both ways. If the people don't want the government to rely on them as resources, and the people can't rely on the government for resources. So it kind of goes both ways. The more the people rely on the government for resources, that means the government, in effect, has to rely on the people for resources because it's got to come from somewhere. So it's the old give and take thing. So what do? Let's see. Okay, a few more headlines here. The last one's a doozy. It is a doozy. More kids killed in Gaza than in 4 years of global conflict, says the UN. To me, that is crazy. As more children have been killed by Israeli forces in Gaza since October than have died in every global conflict between 2019 and 2022 combined. According to figures released by the UN on Tuesday. Over 12,300 children have been reported killed in the Palestinian enclave since that time. UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees Chief Philip, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, Lazzarini said, citing data from the UN and Gaza's health ministry, children account for almost half of the total death toll, which now exceeds 31,000. Between the start of 2019 and the end of 2022, 12,193 children were killed in all armed conflicts globally, according to the figures. This war is a war on children. It is a war on their childhood and their future, Lazzarini said, calling for an immediate ceasefire for the sake of children in Gaza. Israel declared, well, that goes into the history. I hate repeating the history of what's all happened. We all know that stuff. Plain and simple. This is sickening. And I don't believe for a second that it's happenstance or that's an accident. I have been saying from day one that Israel was going to use this for genocide. And that is exactly what Israel is doing. Nobody is really standing up to it, not even the Muslim countries, the Arab countries. They're not even standing up to it. Not really. And it's sad. It's sad. What are folks going to do when it's their kids? It's a question that needs to be asked now, because it's a situation that will be faced later if we don't do something to intervene. All right, coffee. South Korean defense chief orders up plan to kill Kim Jong-un. Now, you know, if I was in charge, I don't think this would be a technique that I would personally be using. I don't think I'd be letting this information out if I was ordering it up. So I don't know. I don't know what the real point of this is, unless it's just a banter. And that's what it seems like to me. Kind of one of those threats that, in my opinion, only speaks the obvious. Now, see, that's one thing that kind of confuses me about what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. Because in every war that I've known of, you go after the leadership. Do you not? I don't know that much about World War I, to be honest. But I know World War II, they most definitely went after Hitler. He did a pretty good job of hide and seek. Look at all the wars in the Middle East that the United States was involved in, 20 years worth. We kept going after the leadership, whether it was Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever name they wanted to call themselves last week. We went after bin Laden. We went after Hussein. Why? Because that's what you do in war. You go out after the leadership and you take them out. And it's not just war. Pretty much any type of situation where you need to eliminate a threat. Look at what they did with Ammon Bundy. They went after the leadership. They went after him. They killed Lavoie. That's what you do. It's kind of a given. So it doesn't, to me, mean anything for South Korea to be saying this stuff. But I do have to ask that question when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. How come Putin has yet to go after the leadership? Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. Things that make you go, Anyway, we'll read a little bit of this article. It says South Korean Defense Minister Shin Won-sik has called for quickly killing North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and other top officials in Pyongyang in the event that a war breaks out on the peninsula again. So he's not saying that they should sneak in and just take them out tonight, overnight. He's saying after a war breaks out, which I thought that taking out the leadership was always one of your top priorities when you, are in war. Shin issued his order on Wednesday telling South Korea's Army Special Warfare Command to make preparations for taking out North Korea's leaders. If Kim Jong-un starts a war as a key unit of Korea massive punishment and retaliation, you must become the world's strongest special operations unit to swiftly eliminate the enemy leadership, he said during a visit to the commando unit southeast of Seoul in Incheon. And I'm probably saying that wrong. KMPR is South Korea's defense doctrine for delivering a debilitating retaliatory strike. I don't know why I'm stumbling now. In response to a North Korean attack, it's part of Seoul's three-axis system for deterring a new war with Pyongyang, which also includes preemptively eliminating a North Korean missile launch and shooting down missiles in flight. Shin made his visit to the Special Forces Command amid South Korea's ongoing Freedom Shield military exercise with the U.S. military. Kim has called such joint exercises a rehearsal for invasion of North Korea and a provocation of war. The two Koreas have technically been at war for over 7 decades after their 1950 to 1953 conflict ended with the armistice rather than a peace agreement. In Seoul's latest drills with U.S. troops, Special Forces have worked on infiltrating key command facilities and paralyzing their operations, South Korea's Yonhap news agency reported. The South Korean Army Special Warfare Command said it's preparing for various provocations from the north, including terrorist attacks. We will move in, strongly suppress them, and punish them until the end. Shin, the defense chief, also visited a key wartime command bunker in Seongnam, just south of Seoul, on Wednesday. He said the joint exercise will hone operations to neutralize the North Korean nuclear and missile network at an early stage and attack the enemy in all areas, including land, sea, air, space, cyber, and electromagnetic waves. We need to further strengthen our capabilities so that we can overwhelm them. Now, what I want to point out with that is they are throwing out EMP, even if it's not necessarily like a high-altitude EMP. They're throwing out the EMP technology. We need to take note of that, because we already know that North Korea has EMP technology of their own. So it's just one of those little information nuggets you want to put back in the back of your head. Lastly, it says tensions on the peninsula have escalated in the past year amid a wave of North Korean missile tests and saber rattling by Seoul and Washington. Shin threatened in December to unleash a hell of destruction on Pyongyang if North Korea takes reckless actions that harm peace. That vow came weeks after North Korea launched a spy satellite, leading to the unraveling of a 2018 deal designed to reduce military tensions around the peninsula's demilitarized zone. Who was it that got that deal done in 2018. I can't remember. You know, I will debate at what Trump's true mindset is. I'll argue that. Because I'm sorry, I've got enough common sense to realize that he had to put in place the Right to Try Act before Operation Warp Speed could have been done. So apparently he knew something and was involved in something. Well, the other thing is a little quote of his that, take the guns first, due process later. Yeah, I've got some issues with that one too. But the one thing that I will go to my grave saying is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen our United States government be involved in was when he walked across that demilitarized zone and met with Kim Jong-un. I think that was probably the best moment that I can really recall paying attention to. I'll word it that way. Because I've been around long enough for the, for the wall, for Russia basically, for the Soviet Union to break up, that wall to come down, Mr. Gorbachev tear down that wall. I was alive for that, and I'm sure that was an incredible moment. I was just really too young to have the full experience of it. But absolutely, when it comes to what happened, I don't know what all the dinging's about. When it come to what happened in 2018, that was pretty incredible. Okay. One more, and this one is crazy. I'll let you marinate in the headline for a second while I grab a couple of vapes. I might want to look at what that was on my watch, considering that there are storms in the area. A lot of old notifications. 8:57. Oh, that would have been it. Rodents have gotten into confiscated... Oh, gosh. Rodents have gotten into confiscated pot at New Orleans' aging police headquarters, and they're all high, the city's police chief said. So, I guess that's that's his plea for a new police department or something, I guess. I don't know. The rats are eating all the weed, man. We can't take it home in time. They're getting to it first. I'm sure it wasn't that, but you know. Anyway. Suspect in Metro bus murders felt he was looked at the wrong way before shooting, police say. Really? Didn't we hear this with Kansas City? What is it in the water in Kansas City and in St. Louis? Because, if I recall correctly, that's what that whole Kansas City shooting was after that game, whatever game, I guess it was Super Bowl, I don't know. I don't follow sports. Said charges have been filed against a suspect accused of fatally shooting two people on a Metro bus. Pardon me. The shooting happened around 2:45 p.m. in the 8400 block of Airport Road. Police said witnesses told officers that someone fired shots into a Metro bus, hitting two people. The victims were taken to a hospital where they died. The victims were later identified as Duran Jackson Craig, 37, and Jorge Andres Cantor Pinzon, 34. I'm sure I probably got those names wrong. Nobody else was injured. A day after the shooting, Anthony LaRon Frazier was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of armed criminal action, 1 count of robbery, and 1 count of lawful use of a weapon. According to the charging documents, Frazier, 36, was in a stolen car taken from the city of Bellefontaine neighbors earlier in the day. He reportedly used the car to block the Metro bus from traveling down Airport Road. Frazier then allegedly got out of the car and fired shots at the bus. He then got onto the bus and fired more shots before exiting and driving off in the stolen car. He had seen the victim earlier and felt like he had disrespected him by staring at him the wrong way, said Major Case Squad Deputy Commander James Weddington. Frazier confessed to the armed robbery and murders after being arrested, police said. The stolen car was later found in the city of St. Louis. Berkeley Police Chief Art Jackson called the incident a horrendous case. In my 30 years in law enforcement, I've never seen anything like this, he said. Frazier was a convicted felon who had several warrants, according to the Major Case Squad. Elgin Ford was driving down the road to get cigarettes when he caught a glimpse of the shooting in Berkeley. He later said he saw victims on stretchers. It was crazy, said Ford. Chris Woods said that he frequently hops on the Metro. It's nerve-wracking just knowing I commute like that, said Woods. Now he's second-guessing taking the bus in the future. I will want to get a ride before I get on the bus now, because nobody wants to get caught in nobody's crossfire, said Woods. This follows another violent incident on Metro Transit in January. One person was shot and another person was stabbed on Metrolink train. Last July, a man was shot and killed on the Metrolink train in East St. Louis. A month before, a man was hospitalized after being beaten while stepping off the train in downtown St. Louis. Ford was clearly distraught about a double homicide so close to home. What the hell is going on, said Ford. Bi-State released the following statement about the shooting. This afternoon, shots were fired on a Metro bus that was stopped at a bus stop on Airport Road, read a statement from Bi-State Development. Law enforcement immediately responded, and Metro Transit is fully cooperating with investigators in this ongoing investigation. This brazen act is yet another example of the violent crime crisis we are seeing in our region. All requests for information about this crime should be directed to the investigating law enforcement officers. And yeah, it gives information for anybody that's got information. So, again, I'm pretty sure that's what the guy said in Kansas City after he shot people up. Because they were looking at him funny or something. Alright. Run through these headlines and call it an evening. Netanyahu vows to finish the job in Gaza. Putin outlines conditions for Russian nuclear test. A watchful Putin interview with domestic media. Russia accuses U.S. of direct involvement in Ukraine conflict. Oil industry will be swamped with work for another 100 years, says Putin. Let's see, your vampire ball is over, Putin says to Western elites. Whatever the hell that means. Russian oil plant ablaze after drone attack. A rocket explodes soon after launch in Japan. Over 3,000 injured during fire festival in Iran. I had to read at least a little bit of that because I was trying to figure out what the hell. So apparently, it's a custom in Iran for them to light fires, like bonfires, and then jump through the bonfires. Now that wasn't stupid enough. They had to add fireworks into the mix. And so now, with the combination of bonfires and fireworks, people are winding up in the hospital. I don't know. Maybe if you could get common sense in a six-pack and send it to them, less people would get hurt. I don't know what to say on that. Just, don't jump through fires, man. It just not smart. And I can't say I've never done it. That's the sad part of this. I can't sit here and tell you that I have never jumped through a bonfire. I have jumped through a few bonfires, both on foot, on bicycle, on mini bike. I can't speak to that. Damn it. And I don't know. I didn't have a can of common sense or nothing. I just outgrew it. Let's see. Oh, man. Putin outlines terms for peace talks with Ukraine. Dozens of Ukrainian drones downed over Russia, says Ministry of Defense. Let's see. EU country to begin seizing cars with Russian license plates. Kiev forces struggling against Russian jamming system, says New York Times. West could use sanctions baton against any nation, says Lavrov. Farmers target French senator with animal corpses. That's always fun. French lawmakers approve Ukraine pact. Massive draft needed to relieve frontline troops, Kiev tells Financial Times. A vote for Trump is a vote for Putin, says Hillary Clinton. You know, the wife of the guy that sold our military secrets to Russia? A vote... Oh, I was going to have to repeat it again because it's so stupid. Putin issues warning on U.S. troops in Ukraine. Sending Taurus missiles to Ukraine is a line I've no wish to cross, says Scholes. EU passes landmark AI law. Russian military destroy Ukrainian helicopters. Biden and Trump secure nominations. Russian oil plant suspends operations after drone attack. Netanyahu government's future in jeopardy, says U.S. intel. NATO has secret agenda for troops in Ukraine, says Russia. Judge dismisses some charges against Trump. A U.S. government moves closer to banning TikTok. Yeah, that's not good. I know that Tim Pool came out with a video saying, oh, it's no big deal, they're not going to do that. Well, I'm telling you, man, I am telling you, Tim Pool is now controlled opposition, 100%. This is not a good thing. I made a comment. I don't know if I'm allowed to comment over on Tim's thing or not, but I made a comment. I'm going to make the same comment here. We don't need to be looking at banning platforms. What we need to be looking at is banning certain types of algorithms. That way we can take care of a bunch of businesses at one time, including TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. What we need to do is ban algorithms. Number one, make it law that all algorithms have to be open source. That's number one. Number two, ban all algorithms that will alter the content that people see. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. But they're not going to do that. They're going to play games. They're going to get people to cheer on all kinds of other stuff than actual effective measures. Let's see. Russia says no to Switzerland peace conference. Let's see. Ukrainian militants caught lying about incursion into Russia. Putin calls off nationalization of Danwon, Russia. EU statement. Oh, I covered that. Neil Young returns to Spotify after Joe Rogan boycott. That didn't take real long. Almost 30% of Gen Z American women identify as LGBTQ. Hey, that's what the article says. EU approves more money for Ukraine aid. Russian lesbian couple fails to get divorced. Okay. Russia reveals Ukrainian losses and failed incursion attempts. A NATO member won't rule out sending troops to Ukraine. And then I told you about the FBI facility. So that would be the headlines. And that'd be the show for tonight. I am going to get out of here. I had my head in that website a fair amount today. Had to figure stuff out. And I'll be at it again tomorrow. So anyway, I can't say it enough. If you need to get involved in your local community government, then you should get involved in your local community government. Who else is going to do it? You need if you see a need, fill it. Plain and simple. Hope you all have a good night. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. I appreciate you coming tonight, and I hope to see you tomorrow night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit, and shalom.